Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dorothy here from the CCMA. You're very welcome to our Friday webinar. Hope you all had a lovely St. Patrick's Day and enjoyed the beautiful weather. On screen this morning, you'll see Katrina Murphy from WSI, who's supporting us as always on our webinar, and obviously Cormac Murphy, our presenter today from Ennovate Consulting. And the topic today is more automation, more conversation, or both. And I think what's interesting about this is that obviously since the pandemic, we know a lot of companies have had to introduce new channels and new ways of communicating with customers. And we probably got to a steady state in that now, but we definitely know companies are looking at automation and chatbots and different types of technology that can make customers engaging with their suppliers, as it were, an easier process, make it easier for customers and make it more user friendly. And I think a lot of companies that have had to go online have seen the benefits of the various digital channels that are there. So Cormac's going to talk about this. He's going to go through a process in terms of what you should be looking at in terms of automation or conversation. And as always, we want to make it as interactive as possible. So I can see people joining there. Hi, Darren. Hi, Anna. Great to see you on board. So as always, put through any questions that you have, and the harder the question, the better. Cormac likes to be challenged. So hi, Dennis and Maeve. I see a good few of you coming in there. It's great to see you, and Susan. So please do put through any questions, any observations that you may have, or even if you want to share your own experience. And I can see Niall is on there from Virgin, and I know Virgin are probably one of the leaders in this space currently. So please do share any insights you'd like, and you can just put your hand up for that, or just make a comment or an observation, and I'll share that with Cormac. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand over to Cormac, and I'll come through with any questions at the end. So thanks a lot. Thanks, Cormac.
Okay, thanks, Dorothy. So just a couple of things about this. I'm coming from a background really of coaching and staff development into this, and I suppose where I was worried for maybe 2-3 years ago is automation and bots and conversational AI going to take away the need for agents and people in contact centers. And what I've come to realize is absolutely not, and that the two fit together to create an even better customer experience. But it's the beginning of this journey for all of us. And what I've got today is my early take on where I think this is going. And I have some questions at the end, or space for questions at the end. And what I'd encourage you to do is to ask each other questions. Don't just ask me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a little bit about where I see conversational AI can be useful, and then where it fits into the contact center and how it can interact well with the people that are working there already. But before I get into the body of it, I think, Katrina, what might be worth doing is just doing a survey to see what people are doing right now with regard to the use of conversational AI.
Yep. Just launch it here.
So if you could just pick one of those, that would be great. How many people plan to use some sort of conversational AI tool? So that's effectively a chat bot, is another term that people use for it. How are we doing, Katrina?
Yeah, let me just disclose the results here now. Apologies on that.
It's okay. Interesting. Right, so that's really interesting that more than half of you already are using this technology, and you're looking to push it out there. And if we look at people that are already using it, or they're going to deploy it this year, where we were up nearly at 80% of the community here today. So I mean, that's a sign that it's really moving to maturity, and that's quite exciting. Should we go to the next slide, Katrina? So really what I thought it would be worthwhile just talking about about what are the bits and pieces of the world of computing that come together to make conversational AI possible. And I suppose the first one is it's this idea that you can type something in, or you can say something in just your natural language and a computer will understand you. It's this ability to parse human language, and that the computer can understand you and understand your intent, even if it's strangely phrased. So for example, you may have a chatbot for maybe a utility where people want to give a meter reading. And someone might say, here's my meter reading, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or someone may be very terse and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reading, and that's all you get. Or someone else might be quite polite. Hello, if I could trouble you, the reading on my meter today is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what you want is something that can take all of those kinds of constructions and realize that the customer is intending to give you a meter reading. And part of that is the entity recognition. So within that, there's two important pieces of information. The one is meter reading. So this is something connected to your meter reading database. And the next one is the actual reading itself. So it's this idea of entity recognition where you can pull the pieces out and do something with them. So once you've got those entities, then you've got to go and do something. So behind the scenes, then it's plain old IT, where you're connecting that data into your existing relational databases or your CRMs or whatever to do work, right? Getting that, and then you're bringing it back again. And then when you bring it back, you've got to decide how anthropomorphic, to use a long word, you want to be. Do you want to be chatty? Do you want to be nice? Or do you want to play it, don't pretend that this is not a computer and just give the information back like a computer. And then, that's your basic system that's flowing back and forward. But then over time, what you want to do also is you want to improve, and rather than have programmers improve it. So the phrase like, would you be so kind as to possibly take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and apply it to my account, is something that maybe wouldn't get picked up on the first pass. But over time, the system may learn that account is something that is used to mean meter by many people, and then it will automatically learn to recognize that phrase as well. So the system actually learns and improves the more usage that comes into it. Now, they may need some human input in order to coach it a little bit, but it's amazing how well it can learn just through the flow of transactions that are coming through it. And finally, the last thing then is contextual awareness. So it's in a sequence of chats. How can you recognize what happened much earlier on in the conversation and see that that's connected to the request that the customer is making now? So it's really pulling all these together to build systems that let us serve customers better. Next slide, Neve or Katrina, please. So where can it be useful? So a few places that I've really seen conversational AI make an impact. So the first one is relieve the volume on an inbound call queue. Now that might seem counterintuitive, right? Well, how are we going to do it there? Nowadays, the majority of inbound calls that you're receiving come from mobile phones. If that number is not withheld, you can push a text message back to the phone. So something that you can do is recognize that the number is coming in from a mobile, and you can push a link back through a text message, which will let the customer move to self-service through a chat bot. And that can be quite powerful, even if you're just using it to maybe in longer queue times or when there's a challenge there. The second one is faster responses, better engagement when browsing. So this is the classic chatbot front page. You see it down in the corner, and rather than have that passive reading experience, you're able to go in and type something and you get some engagement. And it helps customers avoid having to dig through your website. And as we all know, customers are not going to go very far in digging. They really want some help early on in the engagement. Now, as a development of that, one of the things that I didn't realize until quite recently was this ability to deep link, and how powerful that can be. So rather than the customer have to dig around and search in your website, they can go into the bot, indicate what they want, and then you can deep link straight to the page that's relevant for where they're going to. And of course, then the bot knows the context of that page that they've sent you to. If you go in and ask another question, they then can give you an answer in relationship to the page that you've gone to. So it can be a real aid to much more powerful and effective browsing by a customer. And the other one then I think that's maybe not used as much, but I think is really powerful, is putting chatbots behind traditional communication channels like email. So rather than send back just a holding email, actually use some of that context identification and keyword identification to respond intelligently to email requests from the customer. And one of the places where that can be really useful is actually within the organization. So where an agent is looking for help with HR questions or elements like that, it can be really powerful to support them there. And finally, the last one I'd like to look at is proactive chat offers. So ready to check in, someone who's ready to check in, push them the link out to take them through the check-in process rather than wait for them to initiate it. So it doesn't always have to be passive. You can proactively engage the customer in a conversational AI interaction. So how would you start to think about going about this? I'm aware that of the audience we've got here today, 80% of you are already probably on the journey. But if we want to go to the next slide, Katrina. So this is just a quick way that you can build an analysis of where's a good place to go to work. So what I'd suggest is find a way to look at the request types that are coming into your organization. This is a list that came into a UK council, and just Pareto rank it by the request volume that you get. Then go through and say, well, how many databases for these request types do I typically access? And if I look at that, have I got some measure of the service quality that I'm delivering for that transaction type? So off that, then what you can go and you can say is, all right, so what is the current engagement that we have from customers with the technology we're already offering them in that channel? So have we made a big investment in technology that we're just not getting a bang for buck from? And maybe if we enabled it a little bit better, we might get a result. And then finally, go after that, what you're looking at and saying, okay, if we did use some sort of conversational AI, where might we bring it in? So in terms of where we've spoken before, the IVR, interrupt, front page, deep link. So what I found is this is a great way, to have a look across the estate of request types that you're dealing with, so that you just don't jump to the first thing that you see, and you're maybe picking something that's maybe not the first thing that you think of, but is maybe the better start for you to move in the journey of deploying an initial conversational AI bot. Next slide, Katrina, please. So having gotten that, then what you're really looking to do is you're saying, okay, we've got our channels, we've got our bot in whatever shape or form, and it's then kind of a triage. So, okay, we're going to pick one or two of these to automate right away. But what we're also doing is we're identifying a few transaction types that we never want to automate. And I'm going to move on to that in a moment, that there are some transactions where the human contact really brings a tremendous amount of value. So, for example, a complaint is something that really you want to get to a human agent right away with. Or where there's a sales opportunity, you may want to get that to a human agent right away. So those things that are escalate to a person, what that's really about is if I engage with the bot, it's really to get some information so that I can help the human operator whenever they speak to the customer to get to that stage. And then I'm going to have a set in the middle, which is defer. These are candidates for automation, but maybe not right away. As we see from the early survey, there's maybe half of you here today who are in that stage where you've automated a few transactions and you're now starting to think about the later ones. I think we have a survey next, have we, Katrina? So what I'm really interested in, and what's great is that lots of you are using these bots already. What I'd be really interested in is what is the primary business area that you're looking to use conversational AI for. And for those that have you deployed already, tell us about what your next project is rather than the one you've done. Where are you going to work next? Okay. All right, so that's interesting. So it looks like everyone's still in that first phase, and I think that's really interesting in the time of pandemic, that what we're looking to do is, as the volumes have moved across to contact centers from all other communication channels, inbound volumes is the real concern at the moment. But the third one I think there is very interesting. So we've got almost 18% of people who see the primary usage of conversational AI to improve customer satisfaction. So it's not about operational efficiencies, it's actually about service. And I think that's great. And I love the last one as well. That's 18% using it internally within the contact center to support agents in their day-to-day work. And I think that's really important. And I think that's going to grow as over the next few years. So, I mean, that leads me directly into my next slide, which is, if you're supporting your agents in their day-to-day work, what's their experience in a conversational AI-enabled world? What are the things that they're thinking? So here's a few things that are probably going through your staff's head. So one of the things is, like, what are the customers doing with bots already, and how might that affect the questions that they ask me? You know, as soon as you offer a bot or a conversational AI device out there, it's going to prompt questions back to your agents, and it's going to prompt questions about your agent's opinion about whether these are good things or bad things. So the agents need to be authentic about that. And one of the things that's really important is that they have personally experienced whatever bots you're offering out to your customers. So what is the customer experience like, and can I try it? The other one then, of course, is the one in green there. How can I best guide my customers to self-serve the next time? So it's really important that your agents are aware of all the things your customers can do, so that when the customer comes through to the agent and they're making a request that could be satisfied very easily using your conversational AI interface, that the agent's able to make them aware of that and even show them how to do that there's some way of connecting into that. And then also in the improvement journey, the last one, I'm getting this request all the time. It seems like something that should be automated. Why is it not being done? And it's that feedback loop in terms of your continuous improvement, that you're connecting back to your front line and say, we've heard this from you. You've made a request for taking meter readings, for example, and we're working on that. That's going to come out in the next month. So that internal communication about the rollout of what transactions you're looking to automate and when you're going to do it is really important. And this then kind of leads into, so we've got an agent and we've got bots, and we're getting a more complex world in terms of our service capability in the organization. What does that look like? And I have a small diagram in the next slide, which kind of builds bit by bit. So if you want to just click on that. So the first one is staff. So what we would always say is, okay, the staff who are taking calls, and it's getting more complex for them because the conversational AI is taking away the simpler stuff. But essentially, it's about making and delivering promises to customers. And then the next is team leaders. So their job is to coach staff and help staff to do that. And one of the things that we in Ennovate do is we think that conversational AI within the organization can really help in that coaching conversation. And then along with the team leaders, of course, we've got the site managers are next. And their job, and this strange one, is to identify wicked problems. So how is the game set up in a way that maybe mitigates against the team leaders and the staff moving in the right direction? You know, the classic one is staff who wrap and ready. So they go to they've got a pressure on them to get their call times down. So they go on to ready, but they're not finished the wrap and they keep going and then they get interrupted. That's a classic pressure of a wicked problem when the game isn't set up right. So the senior manager's job is always to look at that and see how can I identify that and set the game up to make people act in the right way in their interests. And just bring the next two up together. So then we've the executive responsible for the strategy, but then now we've down here as an absolutely key part of the service experience, conversational AI to improve services. That's working away there. It's by going through whatever sort of an analytical exercise that we've done before, whatever way you've done it, to build those out. But how does that connect then to the staff and the team leaders? If you click the next one. Go on. So really what you've got is the staff is discovering new candidate bots, then proactively driving customers to use the bots. And what the team leaders are doing is they're aware all the time of the feedback that they're getting from staff, and there should be a direct channel from them through to the bot construction and the bot improvement team to suggest the bots and improvements. So what you've really got is got a three-way angle coming into the customer where the staff is making and improving their ability to deliver to the customer. They're getting strongly coached to do that. You're getting the conversational AI to take away the simpler transactions and to feed to the staff what they need in order to improve what they're doing. And then of course you've got the executive continually pushing new functionality and new capabilities out there through the sales and marketing department. So my first thoughts on the connection between the two. I think that's my last slide, is it? Have we? Oh, we've maybe one more survey, have we?
We do, yeah. I'm just going to launch it now.
Yeah. So really, the next survey is just we've talked a little bit about the conversational AI side of it, but along with that, what I'd be really interested in is what are you doing alongside your staff or doing with your staff at the moment, and how important is coaching to help your staff improve their capabilities? I find that very heartening, actually. I think I completely agree with it. I think both are equally important moving forward, and the investment should match that. And I think that's what the effective customer service institutions are going to be like for the next 10 years. They're going to have an equal weight driving automation first almost. But behind that, what they're going to do is they're going to be investing hard in improving their people capabilities to move forward and continually lift that level of service that we're delivering out there to the EU public. So that's kind of it. Any questions?
Yeah, I'll kick off, Cormac. About their coaching and automation, and you're saying they're equally important.
Yeah.
But it's a bit before the cart before the horse, or how do you balance them?
Well, it's a great question. I think obviously the people were there first, and I think what can happen if the message isn't rolled out appropriately is staff can feel that the technology department and the marketing department are maybe cutting their legs from under them. So it can be quite disconcerting for a customer to come in and look for support on a chatbot, and the agent is not aware that this thing has been rolled out there or that the customers are self-serving. So, I think what's really important and what could be great is to find a way for staff to be using this technology internally within the organization. And it was great in one of the earlier surveys, I see that 18% of people are already doing that. But if you can do that, but also keep that information going to staff all the time about what you're doing with your chatbots. Yeah, I'll finish there.
Great, and I have another question then. Any good examples of companies that have done this well?
Well, a few examples. Good question. I don't have them to hand, but what I can do, is I can send you a few examples of those that maybe you can put up with the slides later on, if that makes sense, Dorothy.
Yeah, perfect. And then another question. In terms of measuring customer satisfaction, should you be measuring the customer satisfaction with the service from the bot separately to the general, your normal Net Promoter Score type measures?
Yes, you should. Because you're going to introduce a bot, and you need to know whether that has improved your Net Promoter Score or disimproved it. And if you are servicing certain transaction types through a mixed channel, that some of them are going to the bot and some of them are going to the agent, and that score goes up or down, unless you're measuring them separately, you've no idea what the impact is and why that has happened. So it is important that you're able to separate that out and to see the exact impact of the bot when you're doing that. Now, you may have a data sparseness problem where you just don't get enough data, but as a principle, yeah, you should keep them separate.
Okay, and last question, Cormac. Is this going to mean a new type of role in the contact center? If so, what kind of skills should this person have?
Well, it's going to change the frontline role for the agent, because they need to be aware of the bot, but there will be a couple of completely new roles. So there will be a role which is really about monitoring the inbound request stream that's coming from customers and looking for novel and strange requests and saying, oh, that there means that. The person that says, would you be so kind as to take this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and apply it to my account and make sure my next bill is updated. So to train the AI to say, well, that's a meter reading provision, right? Along with that, another new role that's going to be really important is coaching is becoming even more important for the agent. So quality teams and how the quality team are feeding in to support the team leader to coach the agent. I think that's going to be, there's going to be significant growth and probably significantly more prestige in that as a role over the next 5 years as that starts to grow as a critical unit to drive the people side of the business.
Okay, great. And in terms of skills, is it things like project management, customer journey mapping skills, those type of things? Is that what you'd be looking for?
I think they're important, but I think they've been important. I don't think they're new.
Okay.
I think those customer journey mapping skills are, yes, those are going to be absolutely important. I mean, if we saw the grid that I had earlier, that's essentially a form of customer journey mapping. That's the start of the journey mapping. So we're going to find those journey mapping roles really important, but they're going to be, it's going to change. It's going to be a time of change for that type of journey mapping role, because there's going to be far more implementation possibilities about how you can design the interface and that flow back and forward between channels.
Great. Well, thank you, Cormac, as always. A really interesting webinar and subject. And I know a copy of your presentation, we'll have it up on the website later today, and the copy of the recording of the webinar. Just a couple of housekeeping things for everybody that's on the call. We have a really good event next Wednesday, again on the topic of AI, with Dr. Nicola Millard from BT, and it's actually sharing the results of a really interesting piece of research that BT commissioned on the Autonomous Customer 2021, and also looking at it from the customer and the advisor perspective. So I think that will be very interesting. So that's next Wednesday afternoon. If you go onto the events page, it's there. And then the following Wednesday, we're really delighted we're going to have David Gillick. Courtesy and thanks to VHI, one of our sponsors, we have David Gillick for an hour to talk about well-being, team management, team development. So again, all those details are up on the website. And then the last thing just to mention is that we have finished our library. We're almost there. We have a new section on the website which is called resources. We have a couple of glitches around the photography bits of it, but for any of you who haven't been able to participate in all the webinars, and we've actually done over 60 since last March, If you go in onto the resources page on the CCMA website, you'll actually see, you can search by word, so culture, leadership, coaching, etc., and it'll bring up all of the webinars we've held to date that have looked at that as a topic. So just might be an interesting resource for people to use for their team meetings, or just from a training and development purpose. So absolutely encourage you all to have a look at that and come back with any feedback. And then the last thing to mention is applications for our mentorship program closed today. We've had a huge amount of interest in this. So again, if any of you on the call or colleagues or team members were interested in participating, just drop me an email, preferably no later than about 4 or 5 o'clock today, and we have a little application form we're asking people to complete. But that's really going to be a really good program for people to get involved in. So Cormac, thanks as always. Anybody any further questions? I see your details there, ennovate.ie. So I know you're more than happy to have a chat with people if they have any further detailed queries. So thanks a lot, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, Dorothy. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Niamh. Or Katrina, sorry.
Sorry.